One of my best learnings I got in the last 7 years as an investor is the fact that the stock market is the place where people with money live with experience and people with experience live with the money. So let me share a little bit of my experience with you. Here you can see that the first half of the stock market was actually owned only by the top 1% of investors, while the bottom 50% of the population actually owned only 1% of the entire stock market. So the lesson here is that our North Star should be owning a lot of assets. And in this video I'm going to share with you how I've managed my money all those years to be able to buy these assets, even when I thought I didn't have enough. This was done with the 25-5-50-20 rule we are going to go over in this video. And of course I'm going to give you a few practical tips you can go ahead and implement straight away. The first place where our money should go into is investing, and 25% of our budget should go in there. The most important part is staying consistent, and we are going to do that by automating the entire process of investing. For this we are going to use about a quarter of our budget, so that's 25% that go towards investing. This is how I actually manage my personal finances. Each month when I get my salary into the bank accounts, a part of those funds goes straight towards the brokerage account. The most important detail here is that this process is automated. So I set up an automatic transfer of those funds that happens each month on exactly the same day. Then the funds from my brokerage account are getting invested immediately into an ETF. You can automate this process as well. Almost all brokerage accounts out there let you do this automatically. This is how you actually implement the strategy Robert Kiyosaki was talking about in his book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. He was talking about the concept of paying yourself first. This is what paying yourself first actually means. Investing so you can actually enjoy these funds later in your life. So I've just mentioned that I invest into ETFs, but you don't have to invest in ETFs, and none of this is financial advice. You should always consult a financial advisor before you make moves with your money. But for educational purposes, if you are not sure what ETFs are, I have a video linked here. I talk about all the assets you can invest in, from the lowest risk to the highest risk there is out there. But before rushing to invest your hard-earned money, let's think about this a little bit smarter and let's try to optimize those investments. There are two main ways in which we can invest even better. The first one is with tax advantageous accounts. Basically here, your country provides you with tax benefits if you invest for your pension. There are a lot of conditions and terms that you should read before investing in those instruments, and not all countries have them. The second way we can invest smarter is with an employer match system. This is also for your pension, but if you invest 50 euros, your company comes and invests in your name 50 euros as well. The safest way out there to actually have a guaranteed return on investment. Imagine you come with 50 euros and the company gives you 50 euros, that's basically 100% the safest yield you are going to get out there. Let's say that you rushed into investing, you invested all your money into something, and suddenly you have a payment that you have to do with a deadline on it, and you don't have the money for it. This is where an emergency fund comes in. We are going to take 5% of our money each month and we are going to put it into an emergency fund. This is basically 5 cents on each dollar of your salary. But this is reserved for emergencies. If your engine breaks down, if your roof starts to leak after a storm, or if you have an unexpected medical bill you have to pay. Imagine the amount of peace of mind you have when you know that you have money put aside for these emergencies. This basically lets you focus on the emergencies themselves instead of funding them. This is why this fund is so important. This is basically your first line defense against everything that life decides to throw at you. From my experience, there are two practical tips here. The first one is you have to hold these funds into a savings account in your bank. This lets you win a little bit of a yield on them, so you don't lose that much to inflation. You have to think a little bit about the savings account. There are 3 mandatory conditions I would consider. So the first one is that it needs to have a yield. The second condition is that it should be very safe. This means that this savings account should not be subject to the market volatility. When you need your money, you should be able to withdraw them. It should be extremely liquid. You should have access to it immediately if you want to. So over the years, a lot of people asked me, okay, why do you only put 5% into these investment accounts? If it can help you in such stressful situations, the logical step would be to have more funds in them. Not really, let me explain. When you put money into these emergency fund accounts, you are basically parking that money. That money is not going to work a lot for you. You are only going to get around 2% yield on them. That means if you have an inflation rate higher than 2%, you are actually losing money. So I always preferred to take my money and actually put the majority of it in assets that produce more than that. Also, there is another hack out there that is called credit cards. I'm from Europe, and here you can get a credit card from most of the banks with 0% interest rate. If you have an unexpected medical bill, that medical bill is divided into equal payments across a year with the 0% added to the entire sum. So if that option exists, why would I park my money into a savings account that loses value over time? Let's say you take some money out of your emergency fund. It is extremely important next month to put them back in. You have to replenish everything you take out. Because remember, you should always have emergency funds, because the nature of emergencies is that you don't know when they will appear in your life. Let's get into our biggest segment of the budget, the core expenses. This is basically the main spending category in your budget. From here, you are going to pay the rent or the mortgage, the transportation, the food, the utilities, and other must-have. And I get it. This is really hard to do in practice, to hold all these things under 50% of your budget. It's an ongoing battle. It's like trying to hold the lid shut onto a steaming pot. But you can always try to hack these costs and keep them as low as possible. Here you should be very aware of the phenomena called lifestyle inflation. This is where your costs go up with your salary at the same rate. The difference between your costs and your salary stays consistent. So what does this mean in normal people terms? If you have a raise at your job, don't splurge on the newest laptop out there. Take that money and invest it or put it aside. This is how you control lifestyle inflation. Let me show you what EU spends their money on. We are going to use a report from Eurostat from 2024. The biggest category of expenses was housing and utilities, like water, like electricity. The next biggest category was food and beverages at 13%. And next to it, at 13% as well, it was transport. Transport referred to the acquisition of a car, maintenance and other costs as well. So what are the practical tips here when it comes to the core expenses? I would look to optimize the rent. And I get it, it's a little bit risky for you to start negotiating with your landlord, but you have to understand that landlords actually don't want to complicate their life by going out and searching for another tenant. So this is for housing. Back in the day when I was on a budget, I also started hacking transport. So I would always try and take the public transportation to work or to school or to university. Also, you can buy cheaper things when you need them for your car. Maybe cheaper washer fluid, for example. Or just go to a cheaper place where you can wash your car by yourself. The last point I want to make here is that even if you want to cut things, be very mindful where you cut from. The key here is to actually still enjoy your life day by day. And this brings me to my last point, the last segment of our budget that I call the fun funds. This is a mistake I've done before when I was too rigid and too strict about my life. But life is really about living in the moment and experiencing things. So this is what actually the last 20% of our money should go into. We should spend this money on nice restaurants or going to the gym and concerts and whatever hobbies we have. And if you were to tell me that, okay, 20% seems kind of excessive, like why wouldn't I take a part of that money and invest it? It would surely help me more in the long term. I would say that studies show that people who have more fun, more flexibility, and who enjoy their life a little bit more tend to stick to their plans. By actually spending more, you are sticking to investing and automating the investments month by month. So have a little bit of fun, loosen up a little bit, right? Look, I know that sticking to a strict budget in real life is really difficult, but the most important part is those 25% at the start. You need to be consistent with investing 25% of your budget each month. And if you think that 25% of your current income is too low to start investing, I'm gonna show you how $100 a month